When my brother was arrested, my parents spent all their savings to get him out. But when I needed money for an operation, my father coldly said, "If one of you has to go, better you than him." Mom didn't even hesitate. "He's always been our priority. You're on your own." I only nodded. "Thank you for showing me my place." For months later, I made the decision, leaving them without support. Now they call me every day. "Please talk to us at least one time." It all started last month, and honestly, I'm still not over it. Maybe it'll make sense to you, maybe not, but here goes. I walked into my parents' house, something that's practically routine for me. Whenever something breaks, Wi-Fi, TV, thermostat, it's always me they call, never my younger brother, Daniel. But we'll get to him later. It was around 6:30 p.m. when I showed up, and I could tell right away that something was off. Not just the usual Wi-Fi isn't working kind of problem, but a tension hanging in the air like a bad smell. My mom, Linda, was already on the phone, speaking in a low, urgent whisper. My dad, Michael, was pacing back and forth, looking like he'd just lost his keys or maybe his mind. Neither of them even looked at me when I came in. "Is it the Wi-Fi again?" I called out, trying to cut through the tension. My dad barely glanced at me, waving a hand. "Yeah, whatever, it's in the basement." Then he went right back to pacing, and my mom stayed glued to the phone, not even acknowledging me. "So, whatever." I headed down to the basement, feeling that weird, heavy energy pressing on me. I started the usual ritual, unplugging the router, waiting, plugging it back in, when I heard their voices upstairs. The basement has this old vent that carries sound way too well, and their voices drifted right down to me. They weren't even trying to be quiet. "We have to help him, Michael. If Daniel doesn't get bail, what will we do?" my mom whispered, panic lacing her voice. "Linda, we can't keep doing this. We've already drained the savings once because of him," my dad shot back, his voice a mix of anger and fear. I froze. Of course, it was Daniel. Who else? Daniel, 3 years younger than me, but somehow the golden boy who never seemed to suffer the consequences of his own bad decisions. He'd been in and out of trouble for as long as I could remember, always some mess, always someone else's fault, and always my parents rushing in to clean it up. I went back to the Wi-Fi, trying to ignore the knot forming in my stomach. But their voices kept cutting through. My dad was talking about how they might have to cash out everything, even the retirement fund, just to get Daniel out of his latest disaster. No mention of asking for help, no hint of a plan, just straight up, "We'll give up everything." By the time I had the Wi-Fi fixed, my hands were shaking a little. I headed back upstairs, trying to look casual, but my dad intercepted me on the stairs. "Can you help us figure out how to transfer some money from the old account?" he asked, his voice stiff. "No thanks for fixing the Wi-Fi, no small talk, just straight to the next crisis." "Are you sure you want to do that?" I asked, because it felt like the only thing I could say. I already knew the answer. "Don't be difficult," he snapped, like I was the problem here. My mom came into the hallway, finally off the phone. "Can you give us a minute?" she asked, not meeting my eyes. So I walked out into the backyard, pulling out my phone and mindlessly scrolling through Reddit, trying not to think about how the yard still looked the same as it did when I was a kid. Same rusty swing set, same overgrown bushes. Inside, I could still hear them, muffled and tense. Eventually, my dad stepped out and said, "You can go now." Like I was just another appliance, there to be used and dismissed. I got in my car and drove home, feeling this numb, creeping sense of déjà vu. This was just normal, wasn't it? Daniel gets in trouble. My parents panic. I come in, fix what I can, and they forget I was ever there. But then something happened that changed everything. A week later, I found out I needed surgery. Not something life-threatening, but serious enough that I couldn't keep putting it off. The kind of thing that would mean missing work, dealing with insurance, and a pile of bills I wasn't prepared for. I went through my options, tried to figure out if I could handle it on my own. But finally, feeling cornered, I did what I never wanted to do. I called my dad. "Dad, I need a favor. Just a loan. I have to get surgery, and I'm not sure I can cover it on my own." There was this silence on the other end of the line, just long enough to make my chest tighten. "If one of you has to go," he said slowly, "it's better you than him." I couldn't even process it at first. In the background, I heard my mom's voice, muffled but clear enough. "Daniel's always been the priority." I didn't yell. I didn't cry. I just said, "Thanks for letting me know," and hung up. Then I just sat there, staring at my phone, feeling the ground disappear beneath me. Maybe I always knew it deep down. Maybe I always felt it. But hearing them say it out loud, cold, calculated, like a fact they'd always known, it did something to me. And that's where it really began. After that phone call, I didn't even know how to feel. Part of me wanted to believe I misheard him. Maybe I was just overreacting, reading too much into it. But that cold, matter-of-fact tone in my dad's voice kept echoing in my head. If one of you has to go, it's better you than him. Not even a hint of doubt, no hesitation. It was like he'd been ready to say it for years. I didn't talk to them for a few days. I needed time to process it all, to decide if I was really willing to just accept that. But my phone didn't stay quiet. My mom texted me like nothing happened, just a casual, "Can you pick up groceries?" No apology, no follow-up about the surgery I needed, nothing. I didn't reply. I couldn't. Instead, I just sat there, staring at the text, feeling this strange mix of anger and emptiness. It was like something finally clicked into place, a truth I'd always known but never wanted to admit. I was the spare. The one they called when something needed fixing, the one who handled their problems but never the one they worried about. A few days later, Daniel called me. For the first time in months. His voice was that same lazy, too casual tone he always used. "Hey, have you talked to Mom and Dad? They're freaking out." "Yeah," I said, keeping my voice steady. "They made it pretty clear where I stand." There was this awkward pause, and then he sighed. "Look, I didn't ask for them to do that." "Of course you didn't," I snapped. "You never ask. You just exist, and they clean up your messes." He got defensive like he always did. "I didn't ask to be their favorite, man. That's on them." "Whatever, Daniel," I muttered and hung up. A minute later, my phone pinged with a text from him. "Don't make this harder than it needs to be." I didn't even reply. I just blocked his number. Over the next week, I started getting calls and texts from my parents again. First, it was normal stuff, my mom asking for help with her Netflix account, my dad saying the thermostat was acting up. I ignored them all. Then the tone shifted. My mom started sending these guilt trip messages, long paragraphs about how family should stick together, how Daniel was in a tough spot. My dad's messages were colder, almost angry. "Stop acting like a child. We raised you better." Raised me better? Raised me to be their backup plan? Their fixer, their repairman, their emotional punching bag? The angrier I got, the easier it became to ignore them. I started noticing all these little things around my apartment, the stuff I'd bought with my own money, the things I'd fixed myself. A laptop I'd repaired, a bookshelf I'd put together. I didn't need them for anything. But they needed me. They always had. One night, I got a text from my mom again. "Please, just talk to us. We're struggling." I almost replied. Almost. But then I thought about that phone call, my dad's voice, cold and unflinching. "It's better you than him." So I didn't answer. I left her on read. Then one day, they called Evelyn, my best friend. That was the last straw. Evelyn texted me saying, "Your mom's been calling me nonstop. What's going on?" I told her everything. About Daniel, about the surgery, about what my dad said. Her replies were cautious, like she didn't know how to react. Maybe they're just stressed? Maybe they didn't mean it that way. But I knew. I knew exactly how they meant it. After that, my parents escalated. They started calling me even more, sometimes 3-4 times a day. "My dad tried guilt after everything we've done for you. This is how you repay us?" My mom tried sympathy. "I know we've made mistakes, but we're still your family." I didn't budge. Every call went to voicemail, every text stayed unread. I started feeling lighter, even though part of me was still angry, still hurt. But it was like a weight I'd carried for years was finally starting to lift. Then Daniel tried again. New number, same tired voice. "Can you just talk to them? This is getting ridiculous." "You talk to them," I shot back. "They care about you. They'll listen." He didn't even try to argue. Just hung up. Classic Daniel. But then came the breaking point. My dad showed up at my apartment. He'd never done that before, not once in my entire life. I didn't even know how he knew where I lived. There was a loud, aggressive knock, like he was trying to break the door down. I looked through the peephole and saw him, red-faced, jaw clenched, his hand still raised to pound again. I opened the door just a crack. "What do you want?" "Stop this childish nonsense," he snapped. "Your family needs you." "Family?" I repeated, letting that word hang in the air. "You mean the family where I'm just the backup plan? The fixer? The one you can throw away if Daniel's in trouble?" He tried to push the door open, but I blocked it with my foot. "You're being dramatic," he growled. "And you're being selfish," I shot back. "Figure it out with Daniel. He's the priority, remember?" He looked stunned for a second, like he didn't expect me to fight back. But then his face twisted with anger. He slapped the door frame and stomped off, muttering something under his breath. I closed the door, feeling a rush of something I couldn't quite describe. Relief? Freedom? Maybe just the quiet satisfaction of finally standing up for myself. But I knew this wasn't the end. Not by a long shot. After my dad stormed off, there was this eerie calm for a couple of days. No calls, no texts. Part of me wanted to believe they'd finally gotten the message, but I knew better. Silence was never a sign of resolution in my family, it was just the calm before the next storm. And the storm came soon enough. My mom started calling again, but now it wasn't just the usual guilt-tripping. Her texts were frantic, desperate. Your dad is struggling with his blood pressure. I don't know how to pay these bills without you. The internet is down again. Can you just come over for a minute? I ignored them. Every single one. I didn't even open the messages. But it didn't stop there. They escalated. They started calling from different numbers, even their friends' phones. I blocked each one without hesitation. Then they switched tactics. Suddenly, I was getting messages on Instagram, on Facebook Messenger, apps they barely knew how to use. My dad even emailed me, which he hadn't done in years. It was like watching them stumble through a maze, blindly grasping for me. One day, Evelyn texted me again. Your mom is calling me every morning. She's freaking out. Just block her, I replied. I was done playing peacemaker. Done being their fixer. But it wasn't just about fixing things anymore. They were losing control and they didn't know how to function without me. I started getting notifications from banks, utility companies, emails that had my name on them. Turns out they'd set up a bunch of their accounts with me as a secondary contact, probably because I was the one who always helped them set things up. Now they were struggling with late payments and account lockouts. I spent an entire evening going through every account I could remember, removing myself from them. The electric bill? Taken off. The gas bill? Removed. Their joint checking account that somehow had me as an authorized user? Gone. Each click felt like cutting a chain. Then one day, my mom showed up at my apartment. I didn't even know she knew where I lived. She looked terrible, hair disheveled, eyes puffy. She tried to push past me into my place, but I blocked the doorway. Please, just talk to your dad. He's not sleeping. We can't handle this. You mean you can't handle things without me fixing them? I corrected, keeping my voice steady. That's not fair, she snapped, but the guilt was all over her face. Daniel he needs us. And I don't. I shot back. I needed you too. I needed you when I told you about the surgery. You didn't even care. She flinched like I'd slapped her. It's not that we don't care, it's just he's always needed more help. So he gets everything and I get nothing? I laughed bitterly. No. Not anymore. She started crying, real tears now, but I didn't move. I didn't even feel guilty. I just stood there watching her crumble. We didn't mean to hurt you, she whispered. We just didn't know what else to do. You chose him, I said simply. Over and over. And now you get to deal with that choice. Eventually, she left, sobbing, and I closed the door. I half expected to feel terrible, to have that crushing guilt that always followed our fights. But there was nothing. Just a strange, empty calm. Days turned into weeks. They kept trying to reach me. My dad's messages switched from angry to pleading. My mom went from guilt-tripping to begging. Daniel, predictably, was nowhere to be found. Then they escalated again. They started reaching out to my friends, Evelyn, my old college roommate Jake, even Kyle, a guy I hadn't talked to in 2 years. Each time, they tried to make me look like the bad guy, the ungrateful son abandoning his struggling parents. But I had nothing to hide. I told the people who asked me the truth. About Daniel, about the surgery, about what my dad said. Most of them were shocked. A few tried to play devil's advocate, but the more I told them, the more they saw what I did, just how messed up it all was. My parents kept spiraling. They couldn't pay bills on time. They couldn't figure out how to access their accounts. My dad even tried calling my work number, but I blocked him there too. And then Daniel finally called. He tried to act casual, like we were just catching up, but I wasn't having it. You need to talk to them, he said, his voice tired. No. You talk to them. You're the priority. Come on, man. You know they're a mess without you. Good, I replied. Maybe they'll finally learn how to handle their own lives. He got angry. You're being a child. Better a child than a doormat. I hung up. A few minutes later, he tried calling again. I didn't answer. I didn't know how far they'd go until I got a call from a random number one night. It was my dad using someone else's phone. You are being so selfish, he spat. You think you're teaching us a lesson? You're just making everything worse. Worse for who? I asked, genuinely curious. Your mother is falling apart. I bet. Must be hard without someone to fix everything for you. You little... He cut himself off, breathing hard, then hung up. The next day, my mom sent me a photo of an empty fridge with the caption, "This is what you've done." I didn't reply, but even then, even with them flailing and struggling, I didn't feel proud. I didn't feel strong. I just felt done. empty. Like I'd spent so many years pouring myself into their problems that there was nothing left of me. One night, I was scrolling through Netflix, trying to distract myself, when my phone buzzed. A new email. From my dad. "We're sorry. Please talk to your mom." Just that. Nothing else. I stared at it for a long time, my thumb hovering over the reply button. I thought about all the times I'd dropped everything to help them. All the times I'd been the fixer, the forgotten son, the one they'd take for granted until they needed me again. And then I closed the email without responding. I didn't want an apology. I wanted a family, but maybe that was just a fantasy. I thought the email would be the end of it. A quiet, desperate apology from my dad, a final attempt to guilt me into coming back. But I should have known better. My parents were nothing if not persistent. The calls didn't stop. If anything, they got worse. My mom's texts turned from guilt to straight-up begging. "Please, just talk to us. Your dad is sick, he can't sleep. We can't do this without you." Then the angry ones started coming in. My dad's tone shifting from apologetic to accusing. "You're destroying this family. How can you be so heartless? You'll regret this one day." I read them all but never replied. I didn't block them though. Maybe part of me was waiting for something to change, for them to say something real, something that showed they actually understood why I walked away. But all they saw was their own suffering. Then one day, Evelyn texted me. "Your parents are calling me again." I had to block them. "I'm sorry." "Don't be," I told her. "It's not your problem." "They sound really bad," she added. "Like, desperate?" "They are," I replied. But they made their choice. But it wasn't just Evelyn. Over the next week, I started hearing from old friends, distant family members, people I hadn't spoken to in years. My Aunt Helen, who always kept her distance from our family drama, messaged me out of nowhere. "Your mom called me. She's a wreck. What's going on?" I told her the truth. Or at least my version of it. About Daniel, about the surgery, about my dad's words, "If one of you has to go, it's better you than him." Helen was shocked. I could almost hear the disbelief in her text. "They really said that?" "Yeah, they did." After that, I didn't hear from her again. But the pressure didn't stop. My parents kept calling. My dad even tried to show up at my apartment again, pounding on the door until my neighbor stuck her head out and he finally slunk away. My mom's messages were like a roller coaster. One moment she was sobbing, the next she was furious, blaming me for abandoning them. "How could you do this to us?" she wrote one night. "We're your parents." "And I was your son," I finally replied. But I was never the priority. Her response came almost immediately. "That's not fair. We did everything for you. You did everything for Daniel." She didn't text back. A few days later, I got a notification from my bank. A joint account I'd forgotten about, one they must have set up in my name, was suddenly overdrawn. I spent an hour on the phone getting my name taken off it. Another chain cut. I started methodically removing myself from every connection they tied me to. Shared accounts, bills, even their stupid Netflix login. I changed my passwords, deleted my card information from anything they could access. If they wanted to be independent, I was going to make sure they had no other option. But even then, they didn't stop. One morning, I woke up to find a series of missed calls from Daniel. I almost laughed. I'd half forgotten he existed. He'd been so quiet through all this. But of course, he would only show up now when things were completely falling apart. I didn't answer. But he kept calling. Finally, I got tired of it and picked up. "What do you want, Daniel? You're seriously going to do this? You're just going to let them drown." "They have you," I said. "The favorite. The golden boy. Why don't you save them for once?" "That's not fair," he snapped. "I didn't ask for any of this." "Neither did I," I shot back. But I was the one who always had to fix it. "Not anymore. You're being selfish." "No," I corrected. "I'm finally being fair." He hung up on me. I didn't care. But they didn't give up. More messages, more calls. I tried to keep them blocked, but they found new ways. My mom even started messaging me through LinkedIn as if that would change anything. The desperation turned to chaos. I heard from another cousin, apparently my parents were behind on their mortgage. Their utilities were getting cut off. Daniel wasn't around to help, of course. He never was. They were losing everything. And part of me should have felt guilty. But I didn't. I felt free. Then, one night, my dad sent me one last message. "We're losing the house. Please." I didn't reply. 2 weeks later, they were gone. Moved in with some relative in another state. Daniel was couch surfing somewhere, from what I heard. My phone stopped buzzing. My inbox stayed empty. I thought it would feel like victory. Like I'd finally won. but all I felt was tired. A month passed. I got my surgery. I paid for it myself. Took out a loan. Worked extra hours to pay it off. It sucked, but I managed. Sometimes I'd catch myself staring at my phone, half expecting another desperate message. But nothing came. One day, I got a letter in the mail. No return address, just my name written in my mom's careful, looping handwriting. "We're sorry. We never meant for it to be like this. We never meant to hurt you. Please talk to us." I read it 3 times, then dropped it in the trash. I didn't need an apology. I needed parents who saw me as more than just a tool. They weren't those parents. And for the first time in a long time, I felt okay with that.